Good morning. I'm rearranging some of my home and finding more candles. And I think more candles are better for sure. It's a time for bright light to be shone in the world, and so I'm all about it and enjoying it very much, spending these mornings with you in spiritual practice. And thank you to everyone who has sent me photos of your own candle lighting altars. And I'm enjoying the sense of camaraderie that we have, especially now, today, in the world where metaphorically there is such a call to shine as brightly as possible. I'm Edward, and I thank you for joining our 6 a.m. Pacific time daily devotional, a moment of reading and prayer and contemplation. Yesterday, we specifically focused our attention to the world and armed conflict in the world, and with the call to double down in our spiritual practices to help, first of all, address the sense of helplessness anyone might be feeling, and also to take to heart the seriousness of our call to be light sharers in the world. And thank you for letting me know where you're tuning in from. It's just heartwarming to see everyone and to feel this togetherness. We are using 365, Science of Mind with Dr. Ernest Holmes writing. And if you've been with me from the beginning, you know that sometimes I argue with the text. And I think it's healthy to do that. And I hope you have your own thoughts. And please don't take me seriously. Um, this is just my opinion. And that is the way of Science of Mind, Centers for Spiritual Living. We encourage people to think about, to evaluate, to embody or reject according to where we are on our journey. The topic for February 28 is I form a new concept of the divine. And then there is a scriptural quote, and I'm completely convinced that this is a good scriptural quote for this topic. I think it's odd. It's a often quoted scripture, 1 Corinthians 15, and we shall be changed in a moment, in the twinkling of an eye. So taken out of context, it demands explanation. And there is some relevance to what's going on in the world and the discussion of the context of this quote. This chapter is Paul is addressing the doubt that prevailed in the early church about the eternal nature of life and the resurrection after death. And he's laying out the case for resurrection. Now, where I have a problem with this doctrine is that at the end of this chapter, he says, look, if we don't live again after we die, then what's the use? I mean, we might as well just go out and party and eat and drink and be merry and get what we want, because for tomorrow we die and everything ends. So it's creating this case for good behavior now for the life after. But the doctrine also has in it this idea that is sometimes corrupted in our contemporary society and taken to mean, well, I don't belong here, so it doesn't really matter. This isn't my home, so I don't have to be concerned about the climate, or I don't even really have to be concerned with the struggle of people that don't share my spiritual tradition. What I appreciate about Centers for Spiritual Living, and this came from Dr. Holmes, is he said we're not really focused on, we're not preparing people for the life hereafter, but we're preparing people to live today. and to bring what is alive in them into the world now, and to care about our home, whether this is temporary or not. To care about people, whether they share our philosophy or not, or our culture or not. And so I'm reading very carefully with an eye, because I'm super sensitive today about imposing my spiritual values on other people. The power of life within me, I'm going to personalize it, is a spiritual power, and it's able to bring into my experience peace and happiness and joy and abundance. These are the things that may have made me miserable, and they can be changed. He says eliminated, can be changed through the conscious use of the power of the divine. The divine could not visit fear or hate or impoverishment anywhere, anytime. Now, here's the sentence that I'm sensitive about. The world needs a new concept of God. Well, I would say I'm very sensitive about imposing my spiritual thoughts upon what the world needs and doesn't need. So I'm going to personalize and say, I need a new concept of the divine every single day. That I've got to let that be born in my mind. And so that I keep on exploring what is the nature of the divine. You see, because my way of thinking is I have a lot to prove before I preach to the people. I really do. So the only thing that can bring love, joy, and peace and prosperity in the world is a direct experience of this divine presence. So that's what these devotionals are about. Daily tapping in, thinking about, embodying, meditating upon the nature of the divine. And we're to do this with simplicity and directness. I must sense that the Spirit is at the center of my own life. I must learn to recognize that it is at the center of all people and working in human affairs. Now, while it is true that the power of the divine is always within us, it is not true that we have always realized its presence. And again, here's the place for us to be careful. Should we say that the people of Ukraine are experiencing invasion because they didn't realize the presence of the divine? No. You know, I was just reading about an incredible account of personal responsibility. A woman in Russia was talking about her regret, her personal regret, taking responsibility for the invasion, saying, listen to this, saying that when she saw the opportunity to do something, to stand up and speak against autocracy, for example, she didn't. She didn't do enough, she said. And so she said, and so I take responsibility now for what is happening in the world. You know, I read that and it stopped me in my tracks. When the opportunity arises to speak up for things in the social realm that ought not to be, and I don't take it, I am instead taking responsibility for the fallout. So instead of saying, oh, well, it's the consciousness of those people living there, what she did was she stood in her responsibility. Now, that woman, maybe I'll never know her. She became my spiritual teacher in that moment. I rely on my inner power to work through me to create a life, the kind of life I deeply desire for all beings. I know that within myself I can find the guidance I seek and the strength I need. With love in my heart, knowing I am unbound and unlimited, I accept myself as a point of happiness, and I do this not only for myself, but for the self of me that expresses everywhere. So I invite you to take a breath in with me and exhaling. Let us land together, so to speak, in this moment, in this body, in this time, on this planet, from the perspective that we are in consciousness here and now. And so let us call this time and place and this being correct, on purpose, on point. And then from this deep-seated awareness of being here, I recognize that I have this experience of life due to the creative power that creates everything. I did not create myself. And so I think now upon my heritage. I am an expression of life. I'm a point in the mind of creation. I'm a creative point in the mind of the creative one. This I hold to be true for all of creation. And so I draw upon that creativity within me to guide me through my intuition, to know what to do and what to say and what to write and how to think and how to be. And I call upon that power within me to move through my visions and dreams and imagination, meaning I grant it free flowing access. And I take responsibility today for the power of my choices and the power of my actions. I take responsibility for the immensity of the creative power that flows through me, and consciously I acknowledge through the spirit of the divine in me, I am powerful. Through the love of the divine within me, I am compassionate. Through the wisdom of the divine within me, I am a good decision maker. Through the joy of the living spirit within me, I spread peace. And so today, I know there is no thing, no business, no news, no person, no government, no nothing that can stand in the way of my curiosity, my willingness to learn, the urge within me to see through to the truth, to stand in spiritual truth. And so today, I redouble, I reignite my hope, my trust, and my vision of a world that works for everyone. I give thanks for this community of beings with whom I spend devotional time every morning, and for the synergy and the the reciprocal sense of belonging and upliftment that comes. And I throw open my heart, as we did yesterday, for people, beings everywhere where there is armed conflict. And I do so not in a sense of losing trust, but in a sense of knowing that the spiritual work we are doing has a balancing, neutralizing, beautifying effect upon the beings of the planet. I release this word into that aspect of the divine that we call the law, and I let it be done. And so it is. After our time in prayer, I just sit here for a moment without any agenda, and I invite you to do the same thing. I never know how long it will take. It might be 5 minutes, it might be 1 minute, it might be an hour sometimes. And of late, I've been leaving one of the candles burning safely so that when I look at it, it reminds me to reconnect, to reestablish myself, to clarify my mind, and to recreate my concept of the divine. And today I'm going to let it remind me to be here in this body, in this life, and to call this home. And because it is home, this life, to beautify it, and to clean it, and to make it welcome to others. Thank you so much for joining from wherever. I see there are people from Nairobi and Canada and all over. Thank you for letting me know. And also, thank you for sharing this post so that others may know how we practice.